Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Strategy Game Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Shippey, and today I'm going to be sharing another word for you with you. It's called You Will Find Your Way. So, if you're in one of those seasons where you feel a little bit in between, where you're at a fork in the road, you're not sure which direction you're going, this one is for you. You don't have complete clarity yet. We're going to talk through this. I'm going to read it first, and then we're going to really talk through it, what it means, and how you can get some tangible strategies that will help you to process where you are and move forward. So it says, you will find your way, catch the aerial view as if from a bird's eye view. As you look out over all the land, water, trees, houses, what do you see? The same way the roads were built is the same way you'll build the new map that will take you where you haven't been. The tools and ways of doing things that worked for you previously won't work here. The larger view will unveil what you need to find your way. You'll be in a crowded room and you'll all of a sudden get a word or a sentence or a phrase or a feeling that will be a piece of the puzzle connected to your ongoing purpose. Pay attention to those things. You are finding your way. Now, I originally shared that in July of 2023, but I want to say that it's probably just as applicable today or whenever this episode comes out as it was then. So let's talk through it. Catch the aerial view. So you really have to envision yourself. There's been a lot of moments or times in the last year when I've thought about what it looks like from a bird's eye view. So here in South Florida, we actually have a lot of birds, hawks that fly in the winter and they fly overhead. And I started just as I was driving, there were so many that I couldn't not notice them. And so every day I was just looking at these birds soaring up in the sky, living their best lives. I mean, I've always wanted to be able to fly. Wouldn't it be great? And I began to think about like, what does it look like from their view? Like, what if I could actually see my journey or where I'm going from that perspective. And while we don't have a concrete map, like we don't have the ability to actually see concretely into the future, it did make me think about what if I were to zoom out a little bit and if I were to look at the bigger picture and what that does. We talked about this in the strategy masterclass, is it really creates perspective. So when you zoom out a little bit on your life, on your business, and you take some time, like you step back and step away, and you can look at it and you can see all the things, all the pieces at play. Here it was like, okay, a bird can see the land, the water, the trees, the houses, and the road structure and how the roads are built and where they intersect with each other and why. So if you can look at the bird's eye view of the land and the roads and the map, you can really see things in it from a different perspective. Whereas if you're just riding your bike down the street, you can't see all the streets woven together. You can't see how they planned those streets and the way that they did with intention to serve the purpose of a city or a neighborhood, right? But if you're able to get up above it all, and this would signify like anything that you're facing in your life or your business, where you feel like you've been pigeonholed or you feel like you cannot see, you can't get clear sight on this situation, you can't get clear perspective. I'm just here to remind you today that there is a way and that you can do that for yourself. And it really just allows you to see how things are connected, why they're connected, what it's teaching you, and who you can become because of whatever it is that you're experiencing. And so, who you become then fuels who and how you show up to your life and business and can even influence like your business offerings per se, right? And drive revenue generation for your company. So this is all associated, and a lot of times people discredit this, discount this, and don't quite take into account the weight that this holds. So I just want to remind you today, what would it look like for you, whatever situation is coming to mind right now as you're listening to this, to actually rise above it. Like give yourself a bird's eye view right now, like the backup cam in an SUV, right? As you back up, you know how there's that new feature that you can actually see above the vehicle and it shows you yourself as you're backing up. It creeps me out every time. But it's a great feature because you actually can see yourself above yourself. So I want you to do that right now. I want you to think about what does it look like if I literally float above this situation and I'm looking down on myself and what I'm doing right now, or whatever or my business, whatever that is, and look at the map, like look at where your roads are, or look at how your team is structured, or look at, what your offerings are, or look at, the relationship roadblocks you're hitting. What are they? What are the blocks? Like what's preventing you from getting sight, number one, and then what's preventing you from making connections, right? Number two, because you need to see how, I'm going to use the example of the roads, how the roads are connected and constructed in order to make it make sense. And so this is what you're doing for yourself, right? On areas that you can't seem to see that larger view. And when you do that, it will unveil what you need to find your way. So there might be like disappointment standing in the way. There might be anger or any of the weeds in the way that we talk about in my book, Seen, Known, and Heard, right? So there might be some kind of blocks in there that's preventing you from actually seeing the bigger view and then knowing what to do about it. Because a lot of times, like emotions can function as blocks for us if we don't know what to do with them, or even just haven't processed them yet, right? Or it could be something that's actually like a tactical, real thing that is standing in the way in between you and getting something done, right? So it's just seeing that, recognizing that, stepping back, rising above it, and thinking of it from a different perspective. So watch for this week as we move into the next part of this episode, which is um, observe what comes to mind for you now that you've listened to this and you've kind of had this thought of being able to function in a bird's eye view. Think about what comes to you all of a sudden. You'll be in the middle of a conversation, or you'll be in a room at an event, or you'll just be at home. You'll be doing something completely unrelated to maybe work or the situation, and something will come to you in a moment. Pay attention to those things, write them down, because those are pieces of the puzzle, and that puzzle is really connected to your ongoing purpose. So you're going to start to have these realizations now that you're calling up whatever was hiding in the subconscious and you're bringing it into your conscious mind. And so those are going to help you find your way. And that's going to show you more of the aerial view, that bigger picture view. And so we talk about this a lot. I'll just leave you with this as we wrap up this episode. We also have to make space for it. So the discipline here is just to make space, to give yourself some time to be able to see that higher view, that aerial view. And how do we do that? We eliminate distraction. So we talk a lot about this at Storywork too. So if it's, putting your phone on silent for a time, if it's taking a walk, if it's, anything that helps you to get some headspace, that's really what's needed in order for you to see that aerial view. And maybe even just take a few minutes and envision yourself actually doing that, like that actually happening, you know? And so I think that that will be the start of your journey to get clarity. If you're able to just even close your eyes for a few minutes and picture yourself rising above, kind of like that backup cam, and seeing it from that situation. And you might be able to find that you'll find connections that will remove any roadblocks for you. So, as always, thanks so much for listening in. If you liked this, you can always find more at storywork.co, and we'll talk to you soon.